Hello and welcome back. Before we get started, just want to make one thing clear. This video is not meant to replace actually watching the movie in its entirety at all. This is just a recap of the story with a few behind the scenes details sprinkled in. Now I gotta say it, I absolutely love this movie. The Terminator, both the first and second films, are ones I rewatch multiple times a year. And if you haven't seen them yet, or just want to experience them again, I'll have links in the description where you can check out the latest and best versions. If you enjoy content like this, consider subscribing, and hey, feel free to share this video on social media. It really helps out. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's get started. The year is 2029, the world is consumed by war. The machines have brought humanity to the brink of extinction. The opening, though brief, reveals a grim hellscape, a battlefield littered with human skulls crushed beneath the relentless tracks of robotic tanks. The air is thick with the unending noise of war. Drones patrol the skies, and machines tear through the scorched earth, hunting down the last remnants of humanity. Los Angeles, a city once full of life, now lies in ruins. Resistance fighters, weary and outgunned, battle desperately against the relentless onslaught. But the fight for humanity's survival won't be decided here. Thanks to Skynet's development of a device called the Time Displacement Unit, the war for the future will be fought in the past. We're sent back to Los Angeles, 1984. A man is hard at work when a sudden flash of lightning stalls his truck. With one final blinding surge of energy, a figure appears, completely unclothed, his movements unnervingly precise. Though he looks human, and suspiciously like that guy from Conan the Barbarian, this is no ordinary man. This is a T-800, an infiltrator designed to blend in among humans. And I don't know what this human has been eating in the post-apocalypse, but he sure as hell isn't on a plant-based diet. Nearby, a gang of punks hangs out at Griffith Observatory. One of them looks suspiciously like the guy from Twister. When the Terminator approaches, their mockery turns to horror.
Wash day tomorrow. Nothing clean, right?
Nothing clean, right.
The encounter is brief and brutal. After requesting their clothing, politely of course, the one guy from True Lies pushes the other guy from True Lies. Then, in classic Mortal Kombat fashion, he performs a fatality on Shao Kahn before taking clothes from the smallest guy in the group.
Fatality.
Good thing he was wearing everything exactly 3 sizes too big, and yet, somehow, it fits just right. It's hard to imagine anyone else in the role of the Terminator, but Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't James Cameron's first choice. Originally, Arnold was actually being considered for the role of Kyle Reese, while Lance Henriksen was meant to play the cybernetic infiltrator.
Jim Cameron had worked with Lance Henriksen on Piranha 2, and he very much wanted Lance to play the Terminator. He saw the Terminator initially as someone who would really blend in.
The Terminator I always saw as this kind of cipher, this kind of anonymous guy. And Lance had the suitable acting chops to be able to do a really interesting characterization.
That would have been really interesting, because Lance saw the Terminator as a kind of a praying mantis.
Basically, they were looking for someone to play the heroic character in the film, in the first Terminator. And they asked me to play that character. And I asked them to send me the script. That I have a slot open for spring, and I want to see the script first. And I read the script, and I immediately could relate much more to the character of Terminator than the heroic character.
Mike Medavoy called up and said I had to talk to Arnold to play Reese. And I thought, okay, that's fine. That's a lame idea, frankly, but I'll talk to him because you know you have to be very political, especially when you're starting out. You're on very, very thin ice. You could crash through at a moment's notice.
Elsewhere, another burst of energy marks the arrival of Kyle Reese. Unlike the Terminator, Reese is human, exhausted from the jump through time and dressed in, well, nothing. He scrambles for clothing, liberating a pre-piss-soaked pair of pants from an unwilling vendor on his lunch break, shortly after he finds himself pursued by the LAPD. Reese makes a narrow escape into a department store, gathering supplies while dodging cops. He even has just enough time to stop at a photo booth and lace up a fresh new pair of Nikes before making a daring escape down a fire escape. After borrowing a shotgun from a mobile gun store, because conveniently the door was unlocked, he disappears into the night, tucking away his newly acquired boomstick. He finds a phone booth. Man, this movie really is old, huh? And flips through the yellow pages. 3 Sarah Connors. He rips out the page. Cut to the next morning. We meet one of the 3 Sarahs, riding a moped. She looks suspiciously like the woman from Terminator 2. I can't use that. I mean, Dante's Peak? Yes. Yep, that's what I meant. Dante's Peak. Okay, I'll admit it. I don't know many of Linda Hamilton's movies. I think she was in Children of the Corn? Maybe? The camera then cuts back to the dad from Jingle All the Way as he walks up to a parked car, putting his Grand Theft Auto skills to use. Meanwhile, the real Sarah Connor clocks in for another shift at the diner, blissfully unaware that destiny's closing in. She spends the day being an unwilling ice cream depository, which ironically is kind of how we got John Connor in the first place. It's that even okay to say? We might get canceled, but screw it, let's see what happens. Cut to the Terminator, stopping at a local gun shop. The owner looks suspiciously like that guy from Gremlins. After picking out an arsenal of weapons, the Terminator asks a trivia question. Unfortunately, the gun shop owner gets it wrong. With his shopping trip complete, the Terminator gets to work. Using the phone book, he tracks down and terminates. Due to budgeting, James Cameron employed a guerrilla-style tactic of filming, which meant no permits or legal permissions. They would show up, film a scene, and disappear before the police could arrive. Since these scenes were abrupt and unscheduled, there would sometimes be unexpected extras in the background of shots, like this little guy hanging out and playing in his front yard. He's not an actor or an extra. He's literally just a child playing in his driveway. The second Sarah Connor on the list, just to be thorough. Honestly, he probably got her with the first shot, but the rest, yeah, that's, excessive. Meanwhile, Kyle Reese, another Grand Theft Auto enthusiast, catches some sleep in an abandoned car. As he dreams, we're transported back to his post-apocalyptic hellscape, where he and a fellow TechCom soldier are chased by a hunter-killer drone. Their vehicle crashes, flames creeping closer, trapping Reese inside. He jolts awake, gripping his shotgun, breath ragged. Cut back to Sarah at home, answering a call from her roommate Ginger's boyfriend. He tries to sound suave, but Sarah plays along, pretending to be creeped out before handing the phone over.
Slowly pull your jeans off, inch by inch. And then pull your panties off with my teeth.
Who is this?
Oh, God. Sarah?
When her plans for the night fall through,
Hi, Sarah. Dan Morsky. Something's come up and it looks like I won't be able to make it tonight. Just can't get out of it. Look, I'm really sorry. I'll make it up to you. Call you in a day or so, okay? Sorry. Bye.
there is a fan theory that many people subscribe to, which suggests that John Connor had an original father, not Kyle Reese. The theory contends that Sarah's date was John's original father, and he was a police officer. Since the T-800 shot the gun store owner, the officer was called to the scene of the crime, which prevented him from going on a date with Sarah and eventually conceiving the original John. So in a way, the Terminator was already successful in its mission. That version of John Connor will no longer exist, causing a time paradox. Something really cool that people might not know is that the voice on the answering machine is James Cameron. Arguably, since he created the character of John Connor, in a way, he is John's father. Sarah heads out for a night on the town alone, but something feels off. She notices she's being followed. Enter Kyle Reese. Fearing for her safety, Sarah ducks into a crowded nightclub, Technoir. She calls the police, but before they can arrive, both of her pursuers find her first. The Terminator scans the crowd with cold precision, missing her at first, but soon his eyes lock onto his target. He raises his gun and boom! A shotgun blast knocks him off course. Reese has just served up a helping of buckshot. Chaos erupts. The Terminator makes another attempt, mistakenly shooting a woman behind Sarah, causing them both to tumble. The machine looms over her, reloading, taking aim. Before it can pull the trigger, boom, boom, boom! Reese empties his shotgun, sending the T-800 crashing through a window. But it just gets back up. Reese grabs Sarah, delivering the iconic line,
"Come with me if you want to live."
They make a break for it, Reese firing at the machine to slow it down. Once outside, he shoves Sarah into a stolen car, shooting a nearby gas tank in a last-ditch effort to hold the T-800 off. The explosion engulfs the street in flames. And yet, eyebrows gone, it punches through the windshield, clawing at Sarah. Reese swerves wildly, shaking it off the hood with the same reckless abandon my Aunt Betty uses on bingo night. The Terminator, ever resourceful, neutralizes a police officer, stealing his car to continue the pursuit. When you think of Arnold as the Terminator, you can't help but notice his striking features, particularly his iconic eyebrows. And it turns out, Arnold's eyebrows were so important to the film that he took out an insurance policy on them during production. Yep, you heard that right. Arnold actually insured his eyebrows. The reason? His look being iconic as it is, if for whatever reason his eyebrows failed to grow back, he would be compensated. Meanwhile, Reese, trying to lose both the Terminator and the police, weaves through the city streets. When the dust settles, Sarah demands answers. Reese delivers them. He tells her he's a soldier from the future, sent to protect her. The Terminator is an unstoppable assassin, programmed to kill her because her future son, John Connor, will lead the resistance against Skynet. The Terminator eventually catches up. Another chase ensues. Bullets fly, metal collides, and neither notices the fast-approaching wall. Sarah, in a panic, slams the car into park. The Terminator crashes into the wall at full speed. The cops arrive, arresting Reese and Sarah. But as they glance back at the wreckage, the Terminator is gone. The machine retreats, suffering damage. Using its downtime, it begins self-repairs, gearing up for one final assault, this time on an entire police station. After confirming Sarah is inside, it attempts the easy route.
I'm a friend of Sarah Connor. I was told that she's here. Could I see her, please?
The officer dismisses it.
Making a statement.
The Terminator looks around, coming up with a new plan on the fly. Cue iconic line.
I'll be back.
The Terminator drives a truck straight through the front of the station, launching a one-man war against the LAPD. He cuts down officers left and right, moving methodically towards Sarah. Reese breaks free, finds Sarah, and the two escape just in time, nearly coming face to face with the machine that refuses to die. After barely escaping the police station massacre, Kyle and Sarah speed away into the night. Sarah, shaken and overwhelmed, tries to process everything she's just witnessed. Her friends are dead, the police couldn't stop the Terminator, and the only person protecting her is a guy who dumpster dived for pants earlier that day. Kyle, ever the dedicated soldier, gives her the rundown. The Terminator will not stop, ever. It doesn't feel pity, remorse, or fear, and it absolutely will not rest until she's dead. After running out of gas and pushing the car off the road, Sarah and Kyle huddle under a bridge like trolls from a fairy tale. Speaking of tales, Kyle tells Sarah what the future is like as she falls asleep. She dreams of Kyle fighting off a Terminator attack. Arnold's close friend and fellow bodybuilder, Franco Columbo, actually played an attacking Terminator in the nightmare sequence of The Terminator. It's a cool bit of behind-the-scenes trivia, as Franco was a familiar face to Arnold, and his involvement in the film adds a personal touch to the franchise's history. What's even more interesting is that Franco's portrayal of the Terminator in this sequence was later honored in the Terminator Resistance DLC expansion. In this DLC, you play as this specific model of Terminator in a self-contained story that's actually considered canon to the movie universe. It's a unique nod to Franco, who tragically passed away on August 30th, 2019. The Infiltrator DLC was released in summer 2021 as a tribute to his memory. The two wake up and head out, trying to stay 2 steps ahead of their cybernetic follower. Seeking refuge, the two crash at a roadside motel where Reese teaches Sarah the fine art of guerrilla warfare, starting with homemade pipe bombs, because nothing says romantic getaway like making improvised explosives in a dingy room. Sarah, slowly warming up to Kyle, gets him to open up about his life in the future. He reveals he's been fighting since childhood, growing up in the ruins of humanity, scavenging for food while avoiding patrols of hunter-killers. But the real kicker? He's been carrying around a picture of Sarah, one given to him by John Connor himself. And in one of the wildest long-distance relationships in history, Kyle confesses he fell in love with her before he even met her.
I memorized every line, every curve. I came across time for you, Sarah. I love you. I always have.
Sarah, apparently moved by the idea that her future self handed out wallet-sized photos like a proud soccer mom, takes this as the moment to solidify their bond by initiating the love scene. That's right, the fate of humanity hinges on this very moment, because if John Connor isn't conceived, the resistance leader of the future ceases to exist. No pressure, Kyle. Meanwhile, the Terminator, having leveled up its detective skills, tracks them down after casually murdering Sarah's mom off-screen and impersonating her over the phone. How? Well, I guess if you can simulate human flesh, faking a loving mother's voice is just part of the package. Sarah unknowingly gives away their location, and the Terminator heads their way. Back at the motel, just as Kyle and Sarah are basking in their apocalyptic pillow talk, the Terminator arrives, crashing through their sanctuary like a wrecking ball of death. The chase resumes, only this time, Reese has homemade bombs and a desperate need to impress his future girlfriend. Sarah drives as Kyle lobs pipe bombs at the Terminator. The T-800 gut shots Kyle. Sarah smashes the Terminator into the guardrail, flipping the truck in the process. The T-800 steals a semi-truck and keeps coming, dead set on making Sarah roadkill.
Get out.
Sarah continues to run. Kyle sticks a pipe bomb in the rear of the truck, then Kyle throws himself away. The bomb explodes, the truck erupts in flames. The T-800 takes a trip home from Burning Man and decides to take a nap on the ground, but in true horror movie fashion, the charred remains of the T-800 rise from the wreckage. The T-800 endoskeleton, seen in the final scenes of the movie, was a fully functional puppet, operated by a team of skilled puppeteers and special effects experts. It was created by legendary effects artist Stan Winston, who was responsible for much of the movie's incredible practical effects. Paired with the sound effects created by Hollywood Edge and the musical score by Brad Fiedel, it all comes together to make the T-800 an intimidating and horrifically awesome villain, stripped of its flesh, revealing the pure nightmare fuel that is its endoskeleton. Reese and Sarah flee into an abandoned factory where they play an intense game of cat and mouse. With Reese mortally wounded, it's up to Sarah to finish what he started. She leads the Terminator through a labyrinth of industrial machinery, barely staying ahead of its mechanical grasp. Reese, in one final act of defiance, uses his last pipe bomb to blow the Terminator in half. But at the cost of his own life. Now crawling with only its upper body, the T-800 refuses to die, dragging itself towards Sarah in one final effort to complete its mission. Sarah, injured and exhausted, leads it into a hydraulic press, slamming the button just in time to crush the machine into scrap.
You're a terminated fucker!
As its glowing red eye flickers out, Sarah breathes a sigh of relief. It's finally over. Cut to Sarah, now pregnant with the future leader of the Resistance, recording tapes for John to listen to one day. She reflects on everything that's happened, the love she found and lost, the nightmare she survived, and the storm that's coming. A young boy snaps a Polaroid of her, the very picture that would one day be given to Kyle Reese, completing the paradox that set everything in motion. And with that, Sarah drives off down a long road, a thunderstorm beginning to rage in the distance. The credits roll, leaving audiences in awe, wondering what's next, and completely unprepared for just how much more insane Terminator 2 would be.